Okay, what is up, X and YouTube, formerly Twitter, but I still call it Twitter. But I have Brooke on, and I'm very excited for this conversation because we are both avid Blackhawks fans, as well as, we just want to see this franchise succeed. So, Brooke, can you tell the audience a little bit of where they can find you and who you are?
Yes, so my name is Brooke, and you can find me at TheHockeyWriters.com. And I'm also probably most active on Twitter. I call it Twitter as well. I don't think I'll ever stop calling it Twitter, but you can find me on Twitter at Brooke_Lofo, Lofo. So you can follow me there. I'm all about the Blackhawks discussions, and I'm excited for our discussion today.
Yep, and I will put all the links in the description to anywhere that you guys want to find Brooke. But I'm really excited to talk about the Blackhawks and their future to go first because we have a lot of young prospects. And I think that, hiring a new coach and everything comes with it, we're all kind of just worried about where the future of the Blackhawks are going to be. So can you tell me a little bit about what your opinion is and where you see this franchise going in the next, 5 to 10 years?
So I want to say I'm cautiously optimistic because I feel like maybe most of us are kind of in that same boat. Like I think we're all pretty excited about some of the prospects that are there, like with Bedard and Nazar and Vlasic and Levshunov and all that. But I, like I said, I'm a little bit cautious right now. Like I hope it comes together. I think we all are really hopeful about that, but it's also I think we're at the point too where we're ready to also see it also come together. So I will see what this coach can do. I'm also cautiously optimistic about Blashill at this point. Like he's saying the right things. He seems really motivated and he seems really genuine and sincere. So I'm excited about that. But we'll see. I think I said this before, or at least I thought it in my head. But like it's gonna come on the ice. I'm like I said, just cautiously optimistic about where this team is headed.
Who's your favorite player right now?
Right now, I probably would have to say Frank Nazar is probably my favorite player right now, and I love everything about that guy's game. I love how he plays the game. I love how he thinks the game. He's so much fun to watch, and I'm excited to see him take a jump next season and see how he does in a full season.
Yeah, I completely agree. During that 2022 draft, when we snuck out with Frank Nazar, Sam Renzel, and obviously the number seven pick, Kevin Korchinski, like our rebuild, and that was Kyle Davidson's first draft, but our rebuild expedited so quickly.
Hmm.
So if we get another draft like that this year, obviously our rebuild is going to continue to expedite too. And then we lucked into Connor Bedard. So there
Hmm.
has been a lot of luck, obviously, for the Blackhawks. I think a lot of people would probably say Bedard on the outside looking in, but Frank Nazar was he might have been the Blackhawks' best player in a couple of those games when he was called up. He had seven, eight breakouts or breakaways like in 3 games, and it was just like this guy's speed is awesome. So do you think that the Blackhawks are going to continue to draft players with that exceptional speed, or do you think they're going to try to look for more size? I know James Haggins is under 5'11", but he's a
Hmm.
great skater. But
Hmm.
now we're not even really looking at him. So what do you think the Blackhawks are looking at for draft targets for basically size, speed, and all of the above?
So, like, if one thing Kyle Davidson is good at, it is being consistent about like
Mhm.
these things. Like, it's not like you really genuinely have no idea. Like, it's not like he goes from like really like maybe a smaller player to like a big player. Like, it's usually pretty consistent. Like you said, speed, work ethic, skill. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where that kept going this year or at this draft is if those are the traits that remain consistent. I will say though, and this is just totally my opinion, and I don't even know if I'm right or wrong on this. I don't always love the skating argument, like with prospects, because I do agree it's important for sure. And as you know, like especially towards the end of the season where you saw the Blackhawks really outskate a lot of teams, and that was really important. But like you look at someone like Jason Robertson, who when he was drafted, he was knocked for his skating kind of thing. And that was a big thing like at the time, but he also can score 40 goals.
Yeah.
So it's almost kind of like pick your poison a little bit. So I agree it's important, but I don't think that should be like if you see a guy that's really talented like that, I would say just don't pass up on talent either. Don't just pigeonhole yourself into a certain trait, I would say.
And I think like Porter Martone comes to mind during
Hmm.
that because obviously he might be even going to the NCAA level, so he's going to be able to skate 4 times a week. And I think it's a little overblown, especially at the combine when I was talking to a lot of scouts. Like his skating is overblown how bad it is because he gets you to point A to point B. It's just his first 3 steps. And I think that when you can score, like you said, Jason Robertson can score 40 goals a game, that's kind of somebody that I would want on Bedard's line.
Hmm.
So I hope that the Blackhawks are at least thinking about Porter Martone. I don't know if you saw like the clips, but he was basically trying to say that he loves the Blackhawks and
Hmm.
he'd be a great fit. But out of the top three and the players that, everybody's been talking about, is there somebody that you would really want the Blackhawks to draft there?
So usually, like I've always said, I think I told you this when we had a conversation before about like whether they landed 1 through 4, I was really fine with whoever. But if I had to be completely like transparent, I would say my choice would be James Higgins. And I completely understand the concerns about him being undersized. I do think that I don't think he's like that undersized, but I get it, like with the Blackhawks roster a little bit. But I also, like I told you, I'm also all about talent, and he's a really special scoring talent that I honestly would love to see with Bedard. But I also understand if they're thinking other type of qualities as well. So, but I am kind of liking Martone a lot as well. I also really I'm kind of coming around on Frondell as well. So like I said, I think I'd be fine really either way. But right now, I'm kind of leaning towards Hankins, but I'm not sure how realistic it is that they'll pick him either.
Yeah, I I was having a coffee and he was sitting at my table because I was interviewing him, so I can't say I had a coffee because he doesn't drink caffeine. But I was told I'm 5'11" from the doctor. And if I'm 5'11", he's 6'1", 6'2", because
Yeah.
he was towering me. So I think my doctor either lied to me or I'm not 5'11", or he's not 5'11". He is a big kid. He's built really big.
Hmm.
His comps were obviously Jack Hughes. So if you're getting a type of player like Jack Hughes, and I know that the whole thing is Frank Nazar, Connor Bedard, and your third best or your top three players, if you take Haggins, would all be under 6 foot. But it's
Hmm.
like that's who we've been drafting over and over. He's just kind of like the superstar version. So it's a little interesting if we go with someone like Desnoyers or Frondel, just because Haggins has been the best player in this class for a very long time. So I appreciate you being honest. I mean, Haggins is awesome. I would really like to see him, and he's a great kid too. And he likes deep dish pizza, which is a really good plus.
Oh,
But
that's awesome.
yeah, it's awesome, right? He hesitated a little bit which pizza he liked more, New York and then deep dish, but he ended up saying New York. So we'll get him a little knockoff for that. But other than, Frank Nazar and the Blackhawks, can you tell me about like their defensive core and just what you see coming out of Sam Renzel and Artem Levshunov? And also, just to throw this out, would you have picked Ivan Demidov at 2 last year?
To be honest, no. I don't think I would have picked Demidov. And it's not against him because I think he's fantastic. And I actually would have been thrilled if they picked him. So it's not about that. I do think maybe it was more about the fact that they got Bedard, which was the star forward, and then it felt like it made sense to maybe go star defense for the future. But I honestly, like what they were talking about at the draft about possibly trading with Columbus to get that pick, to get Demidov. I mean, that would have been amazing if that happened. But no, I think I would have gone Levshunov, and uh, I am very. Do you know what the Hawks defense has been such a question mark, I think, for a long time, for a few years, where we were all kind of like, where exactly is this team going on defense? And now I'm actually feeling like the defensive ceiling is pretty high. I am really just kind of excited about what we've seen from Renzel coming out of, Minnesota and him just kind of fitting in right away and playing so well, just right off the gate. And it also kind of shows how much college development has done really well by these players too, including Frank, who came from Michigan, and Levshunov. I know that it seems like some fans are kind of iffy on how his debut went this year, but I actually am still really high on his upside as well. I think he brings a lot of different qualities that I really think will benefit the team. And I also understand the whole concept of some defensemen need a little bit more time. And I feel that way about Kevin Korchinski. I know there's a lot of talk about Korchinski, whether he's developing, the way maybe the Hawks expected him to. But I'm honestly a big fan of Korchinski too. I know he's not perfect and he's made some mistakes, but I really like the tools. I love how he skates. I love how he plays. I love his offensive mind. So I'll be interested to see how Davidson addresses the defense, especially like with Kaiser and Crevier being the free agents this year and kind of how they're planning on building that up, especially, Martinez left and Brody will probably be bought out. So, but yeah, I'm actually really there was actually a point where I felt like the defense had higher upside than the offense, and now I feel like the offense is kind of up there again. But either way, I think they're on the right track.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Seeing what Renzel did the last couple games of the year, it made me realize like this might be the best defensive core out of any prospect system, just like under 23 years of age or 24, because I think Vlasic just turned 24, but still
Hmm.
very young, and we have him
Hmm.
locked up for the next 5 years under 4.6. But I just think that Artem Levshunov, just the knock on him for this season was that he didn't look as good as Sam Renzel. But I would like to like bring this point up to anybody that has said knocks on Artem Levshunov. He went from Belarus to like the USHL to NCAA to AHL and then NHL in under 3 years. And also, Sam Renzel should have looked better, in all honesty, than Artie because he was drafted 2 years
Hmm.
before. I feel like Artie played fantastic based on
Hmm.
what the raw potential was going to be in his game. And I think that there was more of a floor there. Like I totally see that guy as a top four
Hmm.
right-handed defenseman. And
Yeah.
we just stole Sam Renzel. He might have star potential. So who do you think, I know it's going to be a tough question, but who do you think is going to be, has more upside and probably the better player in the next 5 to 10 years? Artem Levshunov or Sam Renzel?
This is so tough because they're so different, but they also are kind of similar in some ways too. I want to say, just based on draft rankings, I want to say Lev Shinnoff because if he's drafted where the Hawks expected him, like second overall, then you would hope that he would have kind of the more star potential. But right now, it's also hard to rule out Sam Renzel. But again, small sample size, right? Like we've only saw, a handful of games from Renzel, and we don't know what next season's going to bring. But I kind of just leave it as if, Levshunov develops where the Hawks drafted him to be, then hopefully that's how it turns out. But they're both
Yeah.
fantastic, and I got no knocks on either of them.
Yeah, great answer, great answer. They drafted him number 2 for a reason, so I would
Hmm.
hope that he's a little better. But also, Sam Renzel is just awesome.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of Spencer Knight and also our goalie prospects? Because Drew Commesso and Adam Guyan are up there too. But what do you think of Spencer Knight? Is he our goalie of the future?
So I kind of want to point out how proud actually I was of Soderblom this season because I feel like there were so many questions surrounding him coming into this season about can he be a backup? And he just really transformed his game. And then you had Spencer Knight, who I really see the upside in him. Like I really do. I think he does fit exactly what the Hawks were looking for. And it did seem like the goaltending in general was kind of a question mark because of Comesso and because of Guy and just not knowing kind of where they were developing exactly. I still am intrigued by Comesso as well, but Spencer Knight I'm really excited about. I actually do think he could truly be the number one goalie for the Hawks, and I think he can only get better as well. And he's obviously been through a lot. You can see he's really mature, kind of the way he plays the game on and off the ice. So I I really am high on his upside. Really, I do think he could be the number one for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I hope so. I was big on him, and I just that Seth Jones trade, it obviously helped out both teams here, but I cannot believe we got Spencer Knight in a first round pick. What were you doing when that tweet had hit, and what was your reaction?
I think we were getting ready for the game that was that night. I forgot who they were facing that night, but I remember kind of getting like my ducks in a row to watch the game. And then I saw the tweet that was like, Seth Jones is going to Florida and he's gonna waive his no trade clause or to go there. And I was kind of like, whoa. But I think we kind of expected it because there was kind of some noise, I think, for a few days prior to that. So, but it felt like the Hawks kept doing this like before games. So it was kind of like a shell shock. And then you had to focus on the game itself. But yeah, my first thought was, wow, that actually ended up pretty well for both teams because you could say the Hawks didn't have a ton of leverage because Seth wanted out and he had a big contract that was hard to move. And then the fact that he got a first and Spencer Knight for it, like you said, it really did benefit both teams. It was a win-win for what both teams kind of wanted and needed in a really tough kind of situation with that contract. So I remember being really shocked and just kind of floored, I think, all night, just kind of like, whoa, like that was just, it took a few days to kind of process that one, I think.
Yeah. One of the things about the leverage situation was that I think Seth Jones gave the Blackhawks two teams,
Hmm.
Stars and Panthers, and the Stars didn't want them. So we were using there was a lot of rumors that said that the Stars were trying to trade for him, but I guess that was all fabricated from the
Mhm.
Blackhawks side, which was brilliant. I don't think
Mhm.
I thought we were going to get a third or second round pick, but just for a little throwback, can you tell me about like your reaction to the Blackhawks winning the 2023 lottery and what you were doing and where you were at?
Okay, so me and my colleague Gail Kowchuk at the Hockey Writers, you could also find her at thehockeywriters.com. We actually had a podcast we were going to be filming that night, like with our reaction to the draft lottery. So I remember watching it, and then I had to get on the podcast with Gail, and I remember both of us were kind of just like, oh my gosh, because I truly did not think the Hawks were going to win. I was expecting them to get second, maybe second or third, but I was not expecting them to win. So all of a sudden, when it was like, okay, the Hawks like got number one, we were both like, oh my gosh. I think we had like this thing we were talking about. We're like cheesecake and wine. We had the cheesecake and wine go in. It was, oh my gosh, it was so much fun. That was actually a really fun memory, just being like so shocked, but like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that just happened. Like it was so much fun.
Do you remember what cheesecake it was as well as what wine it was?
Okay, so Gail had the wine, I had the cheesecake. So the cheesecake was just a plain cheesecake. I'm sorry, it was nothing exciting, but I'd have to ask Gail what wine that was.
What was it, like a red wine? And I thought it was going to be a cherry cheesecake just for the Blackhawks decor, but
Oh, it should have been. That was just kind of a throw in because I had gotten dinner that night and then I asked for a
gotcha.
slice of cheesecake and that's what they gave me. But I'm pretty sure Gail had red wine. So it's sort of on track.
Yeah, yeah. Red, white, and then graham crust. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah. Can you tell me your story from like how you got started at the Hockey Writers and just everything that came into it and when you kind of clicked that this was going to be what you wanted to do?
I feel like my story is a little bit unique in the sense that I didn't go to journalism school. Like I don't have a degree in journalism. It was just more like I've always felt like I was good at reading and writing my whole life. That's kind of like always the subjects I felt like I was really good at. And in high school, I started a blog, like a personal blog for myself, just because I enjoyed writing. And I started getting more into the Blackhawks probably after they won in 2013, is when I kind of started asking more questions and kind of just learning more about the game. And my dad grew up playing hockey, so he loves the hockey, loves the Blackhawks. It was very easy transition that way. But I once I really started getting into the Blackhawks, I thought to myself, how can I combine two things I really enjoy, writing and hockey? And it seemed kind of like a no-brainer. I felt like I had a lot of hockey opinions at the time, and I was searching or I was on Twitter one day at like it was like 8 in the morning. I couldn't sleep, and I saw this ad for the hockey writers that they were looking for writers, and I happened to reach out. I really didn't have a ton of experience. I was at another site for a cup of coffee, for, just kind of get my feet wet. And I reached out to them and said, by any chance, do you guys need a Blackhawks writer? They were willing to give me a shot, and I kind of started on a trial and just went from there. I thought I was going to be there as a hobby. I was not expecting it to turn into what it was, but I kind of just became a sponge and really kind of learned from everyone around me that are fantastic and have really made wonderful careers for themselves. That's kind of how it kind of really started, I think, by chance, by fate. It just you just really never know where life will take you, and I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah, honestly, that's an incredible story. Just honestly, fate kind of brings us to what we're supposed to do, I think. I don't have a journalism degree or I went to school for finance and then I did a cup of coffee. I like that saying, but at nursing school, and I had no idea what I was gonna like do after. So it really was just kind of crazy, like your story too. So thank you for sharing that. That was awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about your like Chicago journey and growing up? What were your favorite restaurants and things like that?
Like, okay, so I haven't always spent a ton of time downtown because I kind of live over an hour away. So I've only been probably downtown a handful of times. I honestly couldn't
Mhm.
give you a good scouting report on, but I have done all like the things about like the Bean, Navy Pier. I've done, the big Starbucks. I've done all that. So I can give you that. But as far as like restaurants. So, me and Gail actually met downtown with our other colleague, Mark Scheig, and we went to Labriola, which is an Italian restaurant. It was fantastic. I highly recommend it. It's really good price point wise, and it was also really good Italian food. And I'm Italian, so
Yeah.
I highly recommend that one. It was good.
Nice. I was looking for an Italian restaurant because obviously I think anyone could tell just by my name, Prospect Dawn, and if it's how I'm also Italian. So
Yeah.
I always went to like Bella Notte and all these other restaurants, but then they kind of got or Maggiano's was always like a fun one, but I've never been there. But that's awesome. So like, do you remember just the first experience you had going to a Blackhawks game or like when? Yeah, can you just tell me about that?
Okay, so I don't know how old I was, but I had to have been yeah, probably high school maybe. And it was a school day. I remember that. And it was against Carolina in 2014. It was against the Carolina Hurricanes. I remember that. And I had my Andrew Shaw jersey on. That was my first Blackhawks jersey was Andrew Shaw. And I it was so fun. They won the game. I remember Chris Versteeg scored, so that's kind of how far back we're going a little bit, but it was so much
Yeah.
fun. My dad, yeah, my parents took me out of school to play hooky for the day, and we went to me and my dad went to the Blackhawks game, and yeah, like I said, they won and it was amazing. I'll always remember that. That was really fun.
Nice. I grew up on that era, obviously. I was a freshman in 2014, so everybody in high school would just like come to my house and then play hockey in the driveway, and we would all bring all of our hockey jerseys I had. Like later in high school I had a Panarin jersey, but that obviously didn't end up well.
Oh, I'm
Uh
still heartbroken a little bit.
yeah, me too. I think I had
Yeah.
to take like 2 weeks off of just all things Blackhawks and just like I was not happy. I still don't understand the trade and I still miss him a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Do you ever think that we're gonna ever see a Patrick Kane Panarin type of chemistry again?
I hope so. I kind of hope that, Bedard and Frank could be that. I hope
Yeah.
that they can be that 1-2 punch. I mean, they might be on different lines. I might be a more Kane and Taste punch than whatever. But I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I got you.
But I hope so. I really hope. It seems like the one thing I will say about the Hawks development camp is that because they are focusing so much about off ice and kind of chemistry and development that way, and it does seem like that the prospects themselves when they get to the Hawks are pretty tight. Like you kind of saw like
Mhm.
Frank how he was like with Rinzel and Oliver Moore when they came because they already kind of were familiar with each other from those camps and stuff, and they already had like a good rapport and stuff like that. So I think we could see that again. I'm looking forward to seeing what that will be.
Yeah, I talked to Misiak and Pridham, and they said that like the Blackhawks, they have a group chat. So the prospects, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's like very inactive, but I thought to ask like because they all know the prospect pools and everything and
Hmm.
like talking about Lardis and seeing how he scores every day. So a couple of them are texting about it. Adam Guyan and Martin
Hmm.
Misiak obviously grew up together when they were 10 years old. But yeah, I love our prospect pool. I could talk about them for hours, obviously.
Hmm.
But is there like a sleeper in our prospect pool that you love that you don't think gets enough love?
Sleeper. That's a good one. Do you know what Mustard?
Mustard, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
John
good.
Mustard. Because I feel like I saw him kind of a few times, like a few of his highlights on my feed. And I think when he got drafted, it was kind of exciting because he was kind of like that speedster guy. And I think we were all kind of excited about that. But I think he was kind of more under the radar, kind of like unknown. Like he could be exciting, but you don't really know much about him. I'm really excited about him though. I feel like this past season, I felt like more people were talking about him. So, yeah, maybe he will be a sleeper, like maybe someone that kind of comes out of nowhere and kind of surprises people.
Yeah, when we drafted him, I was very excited because he was falling through the boards. But
Hmm.
this season, there hasn't been a ton of love for him. I think it's just because of the Blackhawks' superior prospect pool that we have. Like we
Hmm.
have to talk about guys like Sasha Bova and Nick Lardis, Kantarov, all
Hmm.
of these guys. So it's kind of hard to talk about him, but that is a great one. One person said that they liked Marcel, but then we didn't re-sign him. Uh, so
I
that
was
that did stink.
disappointed
Yeah.
because that's actually funny you say that because I think when Cale Makar was on the cover of NHL that year when he got drafted, I think there was like a joke between like Blackhawks. Someone brought it up to me and I thought it was hilarious that I reposted it. It was something like Marcel was robbed. And I felt like we all felt that way. And so yeah, I'm kind of sad he wasn't re-signed, but I hope he gets an AHL contract back in
Yeah,
Rock.
same with Farron. He's a big boy, and he obviously played pretty well too. So I think both of those guys would be awesome. But So honestly, it's been awesome to talk to you. Is there anything that you like want to talk about the Blackhawks that you think is like never talked about and you're very passionate about it, like a topic?
So I feel like this off season is going to be interesting because I feel like for the last couple years we've been saying that the Hawks need to make a big. I feel like every off season we're saying this, right? That the Hawks need to make a big splash, and this will be the year. And it seems like it's kind of like take a pause. That might still not be the time that they're ready to do that. But even though it's kind of funny because we bring it up every year, but I am no, let me put it this way, how much I trust Davidson's words right now, and not in a bad way. I'm saying it because he's a general manager, so he's not going to come out and say, hey guys, I'm planning on signing A, B, C, and D,
Mhm.
because obviously. But I'm actually a little bit more cautiously optimistic about free agency. It seems like right now Kyle Davidson is kind of setting us up to be maybe like a little more calm, like maybe not much is going to happen. And maybe he's being truthful by saying, I might just want to keep it a little more mellow, only do signings that make sense and whatnot. But last season, I remember when he was kind of saying to temper expectations for free agency and they went and signed 7 people. So
Yeah.
I will, and I got burned by that because I was like, there is no way you can't do anything in free agency. But so I'm actually interested to see if he's actually being really 100% truthful, that maybe like we're kind of just gonna take they're gonna take it by ear or whatnot, or if they actually do have kind of something in the back of their minds that they might be exploring.
Do you think Marner would be a good fit here?
So I feel like I have been on the Marner bandwagon because when do you see a player like him hit the market? It just doesn't happen. And so it feels like I would love to see it, and I understand why it's probably a long shot because even if the Hawks were how interested is he in coming here kind of thing. But I also understand the concerns about kind of what Davidson was talking about not wanting to be irresponsible either. And I understand about not wanting to give a big contract to someone and kind of have it be a problem when they're not contending yet. But at the same time, I'm also like on the train of, like I said, talents don't come around that often. Like, when do you get an opportunity to pair a Marner with Bedard? Like, it just
Yeah.
doesn't happen. So even if they don't get him, I would love to see them maybe try or maybe at least make a pitch for him. Like I don't know. Like I said, I get both sides. I really do. But selfishly, I would love to see it.
Yeah, to your point, like I think Marner is a multiplier, and obviously this is a Ryan Poles type of thing when you draft a guy or sign a guy that can help out both positions. Because if you get Marner, then you're helping out Connor Bedard, but you're also helping Frank Nazar settle into the second line center and not play wing, as well as I wish free agency was before the draft because if you got Marner, I think Dane Nourier would be the perfect fit for that third
Mhm.
line. And obviously he would go back. He wouldn't play immediately. But Marner is 28. It's not like we were in on Jake Ensel last year and we're going to give him the bag. And I don't see why. And I know the comments might come at me, but I don't know why like fans wanted Jake Ensel so much and they don't want Marner. It
That's
doesn't
me.
really make sense.
I
You
wanted
wanted
Jake.
Gensel,
I wanted Gensel, but again, that almost
but
felt
you
kind of
want
like this.
Marner.
Yeah, and I
But you
do
still
want
want
Marner.
Marner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that.
So okay, so I wanted Jake Gensel, but the thing is, I also want Marner. So I don't know
Mhm,
why people that wanted Jake Gensel don't want Marner because I feel like you're getting a player 3 years younger who has been more productive, not in the playoffs, obviously.
mhm,
Jake Gensel was absolutely a monster in the playoffs, but Marner is a really good player who is very talented. Obviously, he's more soft skill, which
mhm.
is tough, but what about someone like Nick Ehlers or Sam Bennett? Even though Sam Bennett's probably going to sign, who do you think other than Marner the Blackhawks should target?
So funny enough, I think it was last year that I wrote that maybe the Hawks should target Nikolai Ehlers. And that was at the time last year where he was kind of again in trade talks. Like there was kind of talk last year that he might get moved and then he didn't. And so that kind of was just like, oh, that's interesting. Obviously, he's a great player. And I do think maybe if we're trying to interpret what Kyle Davidson is saying, even though it's hard because it's vague, but if we're trying to
Yeah,
like interpret something, then you would think maybe Ehlers on a shorter term deal might appeal to them more than being scared of being stuck in a long term with Marner,
mhm.
even though I don't have to agree with that philosophy. But I If they don't get Marner and they get Ehlers, okay, you know what? That's something. That's an upgrade. I'm a big fan of Ehlers. So I think he would make a lot of sense for this team in a lot of ways. Like that, just that veteran presence that's actually. And I know we're talking about, Donato possibly maybe leaving. How do you make that up? How do you make someone like that up? Nikolai Ehlers is a good, could kind of fill that. So yeah, they do have options on the free agent market, even if it's not Marner, and I understand that as well. They can still, like, someone brought this up to me. They can still have a good off season even if Marner is not signed. And so, yeah, Ehlers I think could fit that. Sam Bennett, I honestly, I love how he plays like kind of that Chicago gritty style, right?
Yep.
But I just don't see that happening. But that'd be exciting for sure.
I think they're going to re-sign him. Obviously, the Panthers want him just as much as every other team. But to your point about Ryan Donato, I'm very sad about because my name is Donati. So
Mhm.
Donato, it's like one letter off. And every single time he scores, my whole group chat just goes like, it's delivery, not Donati. And it's even though it's because of the Blackhawks post. So I will miss that. And I
Yeah,
really wish like we would have re-signed him. I know we gave him a 3 year by 4.5 or something to that extent. Obviously we gave Shea Weber $8 million. I would just give him like if he wants another extra million for Ryan Donato, just like I would do it.
me
I
too.
might
I'm
be
with you.
biased. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Do you know what? Like during the exit interviews, I thought in my brain, I'm like, I'm actually pretty confident that they're going to get something done. Now,
Yeah.
as the weeks go by, I'm like, I'm not feeling so hot about this anymore. And I'm sad about that because I'm kind of with you. I would be willing, honestly, to give him the extra million because he's proven. He's proven himself on this team, even if he doesn't replicate the exact numbers he had, but at least he's proven and it seemed like he was happy here. It kind of, yeah, I would just be really sad, I think, to see him go. And I kind of agree with Scott Powers too about how do you make up 30 goals if Ryan Donato
Yeah.
leaves? Even like I, yeah, he just makes too much sense to keep, and I'm really upset. But I'm happy for him. If he would get like a really big deal on the market, like for him to cash out on the season he had, I'd be really happy for him too.
Yeah, he had more goals than or the same amount as Austin Matthews. Obviously, they're not the
Yeah.
same player, but look at what the Blackhawks, the teams were on. We were scoring like a goal a game, maybe like two.
Yeah.
It, and he was scoring 30 for us.
Yeah,
It's like 1/3 every single game, or one goal every 3 games. Like he played phenomenal.
he
I think
did.
the thing with like, yeah, to your point, like obviously keeping Ryan Donato could hurt a player like a Lucas Reichel role, but the thing is like I don't know about Reichel. I think I want to go into a little bit of this. Like, what do you think about Reichel? Do you think that like he can succeed in Chicago? I think he's a great player and will succeed somewhere, but do you think it will be in Chicago?
I actually wondered in my head if Reichel was going to come up. I know he's like a hot
Yeah.
topic amongst Hawks fans. Okay, do you know what? I feel like I've been saying this about every player. I'm such a fan. I'm such a fan of everyone. But Reichel is one that genuinely scares me that I think if the Hawks let him go, that he would succeed somewhere else. That actually is a fear of mine. Like there's some players that you're kind of like he might just be who he is, and Reichel might just be who he is, but there's something about the way he plays that I'm like, I'd actually be really scared that if they let him go, he would just ball out somewhere else. I know maybe Hawks fans might be split on this. I am kind of more wary about letting him go if I'm the Hawks. I don't really like giving up on speedy skill talent, and I understand he had a tough season last year, but and I don't know how well he'd do under Blashill. That would make the difference. Obviously, if it didn't, then okay, then maybe we can have a deeper discussion. But I do like Reichel, and I do think he could be something. Is it a case of he needs a little more time? Is it a case of he is who he is? But either way, I if it was up to me, I would hold on to him unless they got like a trade offer that like they couldn't refuse or something. But that's kind of how I feel about Reichel. I feel like maybe a little more leeway.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like I said, when I was asking my very long question about Reichel, it was like, would he succeed somewhere else? Because I actually see that. He's a super talented kid. He has all the skill in the world, and he is fast. He played incredibly well at the AHL level. And I think Sorensen, I think an underrated thing about Blashill in getting Vellucci and I can't remember the other guy. I talked
Becca?
about it. Yeah, Michael Pekka. Yeah, thank you. I was told like Sorensen is going to be able to talk to a lot of the Rockford guys again, and he's going to have to focus more on development. Whereas his head coach, he was just focusing on getting as many wins as possible. It was a completely different story. So I think he's going to be in the ear of Reichel a lot more this season than he was last year, as well as the development of the coach like Blashill. It's kind of a perfect fit for a guy like Reichel. Like as you said, I'm scared. If we obviously get a top 15
Yeah.
pick or 20 pick, that's different, but I don't think anybody would kind of be doing that. I'm not sure if you are have deep dove into the 25th pick, but there's somebody like named Vaslav Nestrasil that everybody is really good, like everyone in the Blackhawks community is fans with. And his team reached out to me yesterday and said that the Blackhawks have been they met with him for dinner and then they met with him not at the combine but a couple weeks back into the season as well as they met with him at the combine. So there is serious interest. That is the thing that they texted me as well. Would a guy that is 6'5", somebody like Nestor be somebody that would be a fan favorite here because he has first line potential, but it's just very raw prospect.
Do you know it's interesting that you say that because the first thought when you just said that that came into my head was if they went Hagen's third and they were
Mhm.
worried about size, that's another way they could add size. That's just totally me spitballing. I don't even know if that's what they're thinking.
No, I agree. I actually tweeted that yesterday.
Oh, you did? That's funny. Great minds
Yeah.
think alike. But yeah, it kind of shows that they have a good option. They have good options at 25 for sure. And I do think there is kind of a benefit to kind of taking chances on people that do have raw potential because obviously Sam Renzel, when he was drafted kind of in that range, he was kind of considered very raw. Like
Yep.
I think I do remember like people being like, "What? Who?" And he obviously given him time and space, he's turned into obviously a very promising player. So
He's the
I
first
do think there's
high school player taken in that draft too.
oh yes, yes, and yeah, Nick Leddy I think was the last one before
Oh
him
wow.
to be
Cool.
drafted out of high school or a defenseman drafted out of high school, which is really cool. But yeah, I do think there could be a benefit for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, his first 8 games last year into USHL, he had 0 points. So then this year he kind of exploded, and they won a championship, and he was a vital point to that. He had four brothers. One of them played third. He was drafted in the third round of the Red Wings. His father is freaking awesome, and his mom creates highlight clips. So it's just of Vaslav. So it's just a great family. I think that he would be phenomenal with the Blackhawks. And like you said, like I don't know if I might have tweeted the clip that I said, or I was with Ovi Clapbaum who is a Twitter user, and me and him did a collab where he's going to do his face reveal today. So I'm very excited for him to make his debut on YouTube because it is kind of scary to put your face out there for the first time.
Yeah.
But we talked about getting James Haggins and then taking Vaslav Nestrasil. And it's like something that just kind of makes sense to us. I think a lot of people would say 34, but I don't think he's making it to 34 overall. I think it would
No.
have to be 25 or maybe even a trade up now to get him.
Hmm.
The cat is kind of out of the bag, but is there a prospect that is on this board and just like that you have kind of liked watching or highlight clips, or maybe you've seen a couple of one of my interview clips or anything like that that you were like, oh, I like that guy.
So Caleb Denwye, I actually
Mhm.
am a big fan of this guy, like the way he presents himself. And I did read that story about him in The Athletic about kind of how he views the game. And I like how he says like he tries to make everyone around him better. I love that trait, obviously, for any player. And Jake O'Brien kind of had a similar mindset too, which I thought was really interesting. But I will say, so honestly, I wouldn't mind him either at three if that's the option they chose.
Mhm.
But a name that I keep getting told, and this is even from at the Hockey Writers, we have our prospect guy. His name is Peter Barricchini, and I asked him about like who do you think the Hawks could target at 25, just out of curiosity. And I kept getting the name that Sasha Boumediene,
Okay, wow.
defenseman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was one I kept getting told. And then yesterday, one of my hockey people was like, I think that guy could make sense at 25. So I'm like, okay, I've been told this name about a few times now. So I'm interested in that one, even though he's kind of a left-hand defenseman. I don't know where the Hawks are going with that in their prospect pool. Just kind of like I said, with, especially like with Kaiser and Korchinski and stuff, there's a lot of different, but I watched some of his highlights and I think he could be. He does have a lot of interesting tools that I thought were really cool. So we'll see. We'll see if they go defense even.
That's a really incredible name. Out of all, like, probably I've talked to 65 prospects in this class, the one I haven't talked to, that there's two names, Desnoyers and Boumediene.
Oh, that's funny.
It would be hilarious if the two guys that I have not talked to would be the Blackhawks draft picks. I had just finished up talking to Ben Kindle. We had a really great talk, and he's awesome too. He's 5'10", so I don't think he's going to exactly be the Blackhawks pick there.
Mhm.
But I see Ben Pope walking in with Caleb Desnoyers, and then they just sit down right next to me, and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. So obviously, we like him. There's been talk that Utah likes him, and now they want to trade back. So, put the pieces together. Maybe why would they want to do that? So Desnoyers could obviously be the piece there. And Sasha Boumediene, he played in the NCAA level, and a lot of the
Mhm.
NCAA draft prospects that are in the first round this year, like James Hagens, Logan Hensler, Colin Potter, and Sasha Boumediene. Lastly, they all had really tough times transitioning to the NCAA level because the NCAA is getting a lot better with NIL deals. You're seeing
Mhm.
this now. We're going to see an announcement. I don't want to say this, but like say this where he's going to go, but a Gavin McKenna announcement is going to happen sometime soon,
Mhm.
and that's going to be really awesome. He's going to go to the NCAA. I'm not going to say what school, but he will be going to the NCAA. And I just feel like there's so much talent going there now, as well as leaving. So Boumediene is going to be really highly valued. And I think if we draft him, it kind of scares me for Korchinski. So when you said that, I was like,
Yeah.
my mind was going. Would we look to move off of Korchinski if we take Boumediene? Because he's a top 4D.
Asked this yesterday about like one of my friends brought up a hypothetical, like even about like the second overall pick, about if the Hawks were like really like were that aggressive and wanting to move to two, would you give up
Yeah.
Korchinski to make it work? And it's kind of like, well, I don't like the idea of trading Korchinski, but it's like you have to give to get, and obviously the Sharks would probably want someone like Korchinski, right? They would want that defense. So
Yeah.
I yeah, so you're right. That might depend though. Like something like that might depend on maybe what the Hawks are planning on doing at the draft or free agency, maybe. But also, like, kind of like this discussion too has kind of brought me to like obviously Boisvert, I think, is going to Boston University next year, right?
Incredible.
So yeah, so it's kind of like okay, just give us all the Sashas, all the Sashas. We'll have
Oh,
make
that's a
a
good point.
party. They could play together at BU, or I don't know if he's going back to BU, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So lastly, because obviously that's been awesome talking to you, and you've talked about Eroff on Blackhawks puck, which has been great. So just like the thing is in my head now about the Korchinski thing, like, would you trade number 3 overall Korchinski and pick 34 to move up to 2? Because I think it would have to be a lot more than Korchinski.
Yeah, I would have to think it would be a lot more than Korchinski. And it's interesting. Yeah, I guess maybe in a realistic and not a fan standpoint, but I guess in a realistic standpoint, I guess it would make sense to move Korchinski for the right deal or
Yeah.
a deal they can't refuse. It's not something I would probably advocate for, but I would understand it. I understand if they're very high on Misa to the point where they think he might be the missing link there for Bedard and stuff that, okay, you might have to give to get. And which sucks. I hate that the NHL works that way. I really do.
Yeah.
And this is why I couldn't be a general manager because I would just be very sad about that. So I don't know. I don't know, Anthony. I really
Yeah.
don't. Like I could see it. So like I said, if it's like you package Korchinski with a couple draft picks and I don't even know who else maybe the Sharks would even want out of that, but like just out the top of my head, I really don't know. Maybe a right, but I don't even see. This is the problem I'm having.
Yeah.
Like maybe I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I could see it making sense, but it depends on how high the Hawks are on Misa. If they're very kind of like Misa's okay and could be good, but is he gonna be? But if they feel like no, he's exactly like the missing link, then okay, I understand it.
Like, obviously, there's not a lot of player pick trades for a
Yeah,
pick,
exactly.
so it's very hard. I don't think I would like just for reference of what I would do, I would not go Oliver Moore, Kevin Korchinski in the third for Misa.
No, I wouldn't either.
Just like that. But it would have to be something of value near Moore, but picks wise, because it's
Mhm.
so hard to develop these prospects and picks don't really mean much, but it would have to be of value towards that. But I just really appreciate you for coming on and stopping by. This was absolutely incredible. And I'd love to talk to you more about hockey during the season or before the season starts or anything like that. But thank you again so much for coming on. This was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I think we'll definitely have a lot more hockey conversations coming up
Yeah.
here, so I'm excited about that.
Cool, cool. And please go find her in the description, as well as I'll link Gail's stuff too, because I love her content too. I'm always in her comment section, but I'll link hockey, like just all of the hockey articles and the X or Twitter accounts. So thank you guys so much and like and subscribe and catch you on the flip. I saw that once.